Hey, what's up, lightboltjoe here. Today we're going to discuss the iconic cult classic film, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Takes place August 18th, 73, came out October 11th, 74. We are approaching the 50th anniversary of this film. Amazing. This is the film that pretty much kick-started the slasher genre, because then 70s, 80s, etc., you saw more slasher villains come about. We all know Michael Myers, we all know Freddy Krueger, we all know Jason Voorhees, etc., right? I have my mask to my right, your left, of this version's 1974 Texas Chainsaw Massacre, co-written by Toby Hooper, directed by Toby Hooper. So this is his original version of Leatherface. This mask is from Trick or Treat Studios, and it's just cool. It's cool having the props for the films, kind of a thing. I love it. Now, this is an iconic horror film because it started a franchise, because it kick-started a franchise, slasher film franchise. But this is such a great film because it's an hour and 20-something minutes long. That's it. There's no lingering on story. There's no woe is me. It's just August 18th, 73, Sally, her brother, and their friends are, going to this small town in Texas, because the grave area, the graveyard that their grandfather is buried, has been desecrated, right? It's all over the news now. Somebody's been pillaging, grave robbing, but like taking body parts, taking extremities. What's an extremity? Extremity is a limb. So your arms or your upper extremities, legs or lower extremities. So somebody's taking extremities, somebody's like mounting them in the graves, but then taking them away. What are they doing with the bodies? So they go down to kind of investigate, but then also see like the old family house. The uncles used to work at the slaughterhouse or something like that. So like their family is from that area, but they themselves are just visiting with friends, and like they're not really that familiar with the locals. They haven't been there since they were little. So they then are running into certain troubles, and they need gas, but the gas station doesn't have any gas. They pick up a hitchhiker who is just bonkers out of his mind. Takes a knife, cuts his hands, cuts the other guy's arm. Things, right? Wild things. So as the story progresses, eventually some characters find this house, which happens to be lived in by Leatherface, who happens to grab the first victim, immediately throws them, shuts the metal door, and then it's just the creepy music, and then the stylized like focus directly into their eyes, and like just it's a severely painful movie to watch, because it's just pure terror. It's pure anxiety, it's pure terror. And it's a wonderful time because of the fact that you have a chainsaw buzzing throughout the majority of this second half of the film. And then at some point, between the constant screaming of characters of being chased by a chainsaw through the woods, through the property of the house, etc., one person gets killed after the other and put in the freezer for later consumption, because it turns out that they're this cannibalistic family, who then a brother was the hitchhiker and the father is the guy who owns the gas station. Weird family, right? But as the screaming continues on for the majority of the second half of the film, as the chainsaw continues on for the majority of the second half of the film, there's a weird overlap at one point where it just becomes white noise. And in the white noise, you find some kind of like serenity sound. And it's just like, because it just becomes constant. It's not jump scare. It's just pure constant terror. And eventually, at one point, it's just a moment. And it's a weird way to explain it, but that's why a lot of people enjoy horror films, because there's a certain moment in certain properties. Not all properties do this. There's certain moments in certain properties where the music, the score becomes very soothing. Even though it's creepy, it can trigger some kind of white noise. It can trigger some kind of, you'll find the melody, you'll find the rhythmic to it, you'll find that tone, and it'll just become a solace sound. Certain properties can do that. Not all properties can do that. Texas Chainsaw is a property that can do that. So despite the fact that you are like, I've seen this movie 1,000 times since I was a kid, and I'm still like, because it's disgusting. But it brings a sense of solace when it hits that when the screams meet the chainsaw after the 18th minute kind of a thing, it becomes that white noise, and it's just calm. Even though it's chaos on the screen, it becomes calm in the mind. I don't know how else to explain it. I'm pretty sure there's a word to explain what I just explained. I have no idea what it is. But I know it exists. I just have no idea what that word is. When the chaos cancels out the chaos and it becomes a calm, and a negative times a negative equals a positive, all right? Basic mathematics. What is that word? What is that word in psychology? I don't know. I don't know. I want to know. If you know that answer, please tell me. I would love to know. But that's what's cool about this film. What I absolutely love about the ending of this film, excuse me, Sally becomes the final girl, right? She survives somehow magically. And so she escapes. She tries to get a trucker's help. That doesn't work. She then jumps into the back of a pickup as Leatherface, who's just called Leatherface. He's not named in this particular project. At first. Sequels moving on, he is named. But this particular first 74 iteration taking place in 73, he's not named. Leatherface is chasing Sally with the chainsaw, middle of the street, broad daylight, with his mask. All these things are happening. The cattle truck stops. That doesn't work. She jumps into the pickup. She's laughing hysterically because she escaped and she broke. Her psyche broke. And I don't know who that actress is, but she does a fantastic job with the portrayal of the mind snapping when you finally win and you can't believe the absolute horrors that you had to endure to get to that moment, that you get that escape, that breaking point. A lot of like those crossover moments where you can finally have that moment. Wonderful. She's laughing hysterically. Camera then quickly goes to Leatherface as he's, mad, but he's dancing around with the chainsaw. Oh, I should have brought my chainsaw prop out. I brought the mask out. I didn't bring the chainsaw out. We'll bring the chainsaw for the next time. And the sun is setting, which the timeline of events doesn't make sense because it's night, but then it's day very quickly. So she's not running the full day from the house, like the escape, to then find the tow truck, to find the pickup truck, unless she was running the entire day and they just condensed it to a little bit. But anyway, the last final shot is him dancing and just mad, but he's waving around the chainsaw. She's laughing hysterically in the pickup. He's dancing around with the chainsaw in the sunset. Cut to black. Credits. That's it. It's just so abruptly ended that it doesn't need an explanation of what's going to happen next. We know that there's 8 other films now that we are here in 24 or 50 years later. We know that there's 8 other films. We know that the sequel then now takes place. The sequel came out in 86, I believe. So that's the next on our list. We're going to see what happened within the 13 years. So is the sequel technically a legacy film if it was filmed 13 years later? We're going to see. We're going to see how that works. But I love the ending of this because it's so abrupt. Final girl gets her laughing, maniacal laughing of snapping in the pickup truck. He's mad, waving around his chainsaw. By sunset, fade to black. That's it. I've never seen a better ending in a horror film. There are no better endings in a horror film in regards to abrupt, scenic cinematography. Bam, done. Final girl laugh. Villain dancing by sunset. Black. Credits. Nobody else has done that. Saw, of course, is impeccable in regards to storytelling and overlapping and stuff like that. Other franchises have their moments. But this is the best ending of a horror film I've ever seen. Hands down, bar none. Maybe the best ending of a film I've ever seen. Hands down, bar none. Incredible. Incredible film, which started it all. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. 1974 cult classic film. On to the next review. Mucho mahalo.